When are you coming home?
Today's guest is someone who proves that heart, vision, and a whole lot of grit can go a long way in hospitality, even if you didn't just start in the industry. Kara Hammis is the owner and operator of Brown County Barn Burner. It's a large group short-term rental. It is a luxury Airbnb, and we have her on our show today to talk about all things operations, lodging, guest interactions, and so much more that goes on behind the scenes in hospitality. So, Kara, thank you so much for being on the show and welcome to Behind the Service.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk today.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk with you too. But before we dive into all the things, right?
Yeah.
Can we just get started on? I would love to further introduce you with a little bit more detail about how you got into the industry, and we can talk a little bit about your establishment now, your luxury Airbnb.
Yeah, sure. So we built the barn burner in 2020. So we opened and hosted our first guests in November of that year. It was really, I think we can all remember 2020. That was a pretty wild year for us to be doing construction, but it started 2 years before that. We had moved to the area we live in now, Brown County, Indiana, which is about an hour south of Indianapolis, and had been looking for a while at this is I would call it like a regional tourist destination. The biggest state park in Indiana is here, so there are definitely a lot of people coming to visit here. That's how we first started coming down here, was as tourists before we moved. And we were interested in owning a short-term rental. And just the more we got to know the market and, all the things, we just went in a different direction of deciding to build something of our own, and specifically, like you mentioned, targeting a space that could host large groups and families really well. There's a lot of boring like zoning reasons why large group lodging is not really common here or exist at all outside the barn burner. Um, but so, that's what we were focused on, was creating a space that could host large groups really well. And that's what we built. You mentioned we did not start in hospitality. My degrees are actually in biology and public health. My husband's a mechanical engineer. He still works for a local brewery and distillery as their facilities and equipment engineer. So we kind of, it was not a straight path to get where we are with the barn burner, but we're, really proud of it now. And now this is my full-time uh, job, is, keeping it running, welcoming guests, and hosting well.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
to you both. Starting in such a challenging time and still thriving today. You
Yeah.
have some places that, started in a great time and were thriving up until 2020. And
Yeah.
so the fact that you started out of that is really exciting. And considering the fact that you guys didn't have, I won't even say the experience. You did not professionally or
Yeah.
educationally start in hospitality. But
Yeah.
one thing I love talking about, and I think, you and I can agree, and most hospitality professionals can agree, it's something you just have to have a knack for.
Yeah.
It is not, it's not, a STEM type, you know, uh, category or environment where like everything is precise. Hospitality is so gray.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, because even though, for our space, we designed and built it with a really specific perspective that came from our own experience. But at the end of the day, we're not hosting like cookie cutter groups of us and our family. So you do have to think about, you have expertise and experience of your own, but what else? What's the kind of logical extension of that? So I want this, but what else kind of pairs with that a group like what we're trying to host would also need? And yeah, it's not black and white. It is that kind of empathy and vibes, and what would somebody need that's coming into my space or want, and how can I, make that easy for them?
Fabulous. I'm very excited to talk to you about so many different like parts of what you do.
Yeah.
Mostly because my background is in housekeeping.
Okay.
I started as an intern. I've interned at I've worked at the front desk.
Ah,
I've worked as a manager in training for a year at the. I went from there to being an assistant manager at then I became an assistant executive housekeeper, and then I was an executive
yeah,
housekeeper for 2 years. So I've spanned across multiple brands. I've
yeah.
done a lot of operations. I've seen lots of different things, but some of my favorite topics to talk about are one, the specificity of luxury service
Mhm.
versus your normal
Yep.
services. What are those differences, right? And how different does it look when managing those operations? And then another part that I would love to talk to you about is the experience of opening. And so, like I said, I was an executive housekeeper at a property in Gainesville, Florida, and I was super excited. I got the opportunity to open
Yeah.
that property, and
Yeah.
so I experienced the full thing. But prior to that, me being an assistant housekeeping manager at the property in Orlando, I opened that property. Well, I was on the opening team of that
Yeah.
property as well. That was also 2020. 2020.
Yeah.
I was furloughed. And so that's when I decided to pack up things and I moved to Colorado and I became an assistant executive housekeeper. So I've experienced opening during 2020.
Yeah.
I've experienced opening during 2020. What was that? 2022. And the full process of what opening looks like within the first 2 years. I've seen what it looks like during our like breaking even points and establishing like our very first ratings and scores and like it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, where do I start? What do I talk about luxury with you? Do I talk about opening? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Well, I will say one thing quick. I meant to mention this earlier about the 20
Yeah.
piece for us. So we bought the property where we ended up building in 2018 and spent those 2 years trying to, finalize our design, secure construction funding, like get our contractor lined up, all that. And so that was 2 years of multiple banks, going through all this. And then March, this will just be one of those dates I remember the rest of my life. March 11th of 2020 was when we finally signed our construction loan. And I remember we were kind of, COVID was like percolating below the surface at that point. We kind of joked with our loan officer at closing, like, oh, what about those masks? You think that's going to be something we have to do? And literally by the 15th, like we had two, I think our daughters were, gosh, that was 5 years ago. They're 10 and 12 now. So they're 5 and 7, like in kindergarten and second grade or
Oh.
preschool and first. I don't even remember. A lot has happened since then. But by the 15th, school was canceled. They were home. We were trying to figure out what an essential industry was. Like after 2 years of what felt like hurdle, hurdle, hurdle. And then we're ready. We have our funding. We're ready to start construction. And then it's like global pandemic shutdown. It was at the time was like, are you kidding me? Could it be another thing? How could this be worse? And thankfully now in hindsight, I can just thank our lucky stars that our timing was what it was, because if we had closed sooner, we had wanted to open in the spring of 2020. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know even how we could have, managed or survived that with all the uncertainty and being so new, and still trying to get guests in the door and, like you said, build that reputation. Because we were ready to hit the ground that early, we really weren't affected by the like inflation and supply chain issues. There were maybe, one or two things I can think of, like I had to track down different fridges at the last minute or something.
Mhm.
Um, and, we had already expected kind of a slow period of ramping up bookings, and that's what happened as far as from November kind of into the following summer. So now I can say in hindsight, I'm like, thank goodness, if there was going to be a global pandemic, that was how our timing hit during it. But it definitely added other challenges to the whole thing. I mean, our kids were home from school, and again, in hindsight, that's kind of cool now. They got to see so much more of the build and be involved in a way they never would have, because it was like, well, for homeschool today, we're going to go watch this concrete pump truck like pour the foundation. Kids, like, you sit across the street on the church porch, stay out of the way, and we'll go home when we're done. But yeah, so that just added a whole different level of challenge with the opening. But you just got to roll with what life serves up, I guess.
Oh my goodness. I feel like it's so such a personal statement to say. I'm so proud of you. So I know it's probably weird to hear it from me, but I'm so proud of y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Those challenges are real,
Yeah.
and you specifically just focus on economic, industry, like the professional side.
Yeah.
You casually toss in the fact that you had children, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is kind of goes to one of those core things of good hospitality anyway, is like
Mhm.
you have to just be ready to roll with what happens, and you can have systems in place, but at the end of the day, you can't account for every little thing. And if you're not willing, you're not able to be flexible and kind of like adjust on the fly, I don't know how you could do it successfully. So we just got our ability to do that just got tested really big early on, but it's the same kind of like mental approach.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, this is what happened. Now what? Now what do we do?
Absolutely. So you spoke about being a mom and experiencing all of the things that you did up until 2020, and those experiences help kind of prepare you for what essentially is involved in our experience in hospitality, which is like taking it as it comes. You can be
Yeah.
prepared, you
Yeah.
can look at the occupancy rates all you
Yeah.
want, you can overstaff all you want, you can get 3 par worth of linen and terry and do all the things, and still something happens, right? And so thick skin is something that I often talk about in
Yeah.
hospitality as well. And my husband, being ex-military, talks a lot about his experiences in the military, and he does this kind of snooty look on the civilian world about challenges we experience
Yeah.
in our professional
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, you wouldn't last a day at the front desk at a hotel.
I can only imagine.
So could you tell me a little bit about a time or times or experiences where you have had to have very thick skin just to run a decent operation, just to give people what they're paying for?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, overall, we're coming up on 5 years of hosting guests, and we have been so lucky for the most part. People come in in general are like very respectful of the space. In fact, will sometimes feel like they're imposing upon me if they have questions or requests. And it's like, no, this literally what I'm here to do is to make sure, that your stay is what you need it to be. So overall, I cannot say anything but kind words about our guests. And when there have been issues, we've again been lucky that it's not a malicious thing, but accidents do happen. Um, the biggest one that I really had to like just roll with happened last fall, and we were hosting. So I've alluded to this a few times, but to like explain it a little further, because our setup is not a typical Airbnb. We have the building is designed, it has like 4 apartment units in the same building.
Okay.
And we prioritize hosting all 4 of them together to larger groups. So there's like a shared
Nice.
rooftop patio, and the units connect in different ways. But it's like they could be rented individually, and we'll do that if there's still availability like 90 days out. We'll rent the individual units, but most of our bookings are people renting the entire space, and that's what we prioritize. But so we had a group that was in town, like a school group with chaperones, and they were attending a conference in like a nearby city. And they left, and so they would like leave really early in the morning and not get back until late. And in our building there's also a bike shop that leases their commercial space. And I was hiking one morning this past fall, and the bike shop owner called me, and she's like, there's something beeping in one of the units. And I don't know what it is, but I just wanted to let you know something's beeping. And we have this sensor that will like go off randomly. Sometimes we kind of thought it was that. And I was like, I'll come by when I get off of this trail. Like there's nothing I can do except just keep walking in the direction I'm walking. So I get there, and it's not this thing we think was beeping. It's something else. It's like in one of the units. I can't get a hold of anybody with the group. I don't know if they're there, but it's like, I think it might be a smoke detector that's beeping. And
Oh no.
so I go open, figure out like which unit it's coming from, open the door, and just like smoke is like pouring out the door. And it's like, oh, oh shit. And I get upstairs, and what had happened was we have like glass cooktop stoves. They had foods, like boxes of food stored on the stove, which you should not do, and must have like bumped the knob when they were leaving in the morning and turned a burner on, and it like caught the box of Cheerios on fire. It was just like ablaze and like burned the microwave up above. I mean, unit filled with all this. And again, it's like you just have to roll. Okay, now this has happened. What do I do? They're not there. I can't get a hold of anyone. So the thing, it was just like smoldering. It wasn't burning anymore.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell, I'm a silver lining person. It's like, okay, what's that? What's the good I can take from this and just move ahead?
Yeah.
Like I say now, if I had to have an indoor fire, this is the one I would have chosen because it was on the cooktop, it didn't spread. The microwave above it couldn't really catch on fire. It didn't catch the cabinets. And because we have like shared lodging and commercial space in the same building, we have a sprinkler, like a commercial sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Most hotels would have this as well. So it's like, if it
Mhm.
had spread, it's not like it would have burned down the building, but it would have totally flooded the unit and destroyed everything inside of it. And it was in October, which is our busiest time. And so, I mean, it was just it was a mess. It was so smoky. Everything had to be washed multiple times. These people still had
Okay.
one more night left of their stay. There was somebody else supposed to check in the next day, like when they checked out. It was just
Always, right? You always have a same day turnover when like something crazy
Yeah.
happens.
Oh, and my husband, he goes hunting out west with my dad and my brother every year, and they were hunting, and
Mhm.
he never has cell service when that happens. So of course I'm like solo manning this ship. I can't. He's normally the one I would be like, who should I call to help me replace this microwave, and who would do this? That's like the role he plays, and of course,
Yeah.
no, not can't even reach him on the phone. Like,
Kara, you have talked about lucky
ah,
stars and streaks of luck,
yeah,
but
yeah, I
girl,
know that, and for
the barn
years, I would have been like, "It was just been wonderful. There's really been no problems." And then that one happened. I'm like, "Okay, well, we don't need to repeat that again." But
yeah, the barn burner is like it is built on holy land or something.
something, yeah.
Well, no, congratulations. I'm glad it wasn't any
Oh, I
worse than
know. I
that.
mean, yeah, but I guess that to me, that's like the perfect example of there's not anything. Once it's happened, it's happened. There's not anything I can do to change that
Nothing we
fact.
can do.
All I can do is deal with the people that are there and the problem and the next people that are coming, like with the most
Mhm.
grace possible. And like that's all you can do. That's
Yeah.
like just what it boils down to for me.
It is enlightening to hear the experiences that you have, in the Airbnb because these groups are coming together. Have you ever had experience? So only one group can book at a time, or have you ever had any experiences where multiple groups are in house at the same time?
So the way the calendar is set up is like priority is given to groups that want to book the entire space, and that's like available
Yeah.
instantly the furthest out a year, or you could contact me and I could like manually allow you to book further out than that. But then starting 90 days out, if there's availability, like a full group hasn't booked it, then the individual units can be booked by separate groups. So that is not that's a minority of our bookings are individual units like that. Um, but it does happen. And that is like I am the most nervous and the most careful with those kind of bookings. Like I know that there are certain units in the building where once you start, as much as we've tried to noise proof and do all this, like they're still in the same building. You're still one on top of the other for some of them. And so like I will block, this isn't like the best numbers decision maybe, but I will block certain units depending on which ones get
Mhm.
booked because I just know from past experience that it's like now that this one is booked by an individual group, this other unit is like the most likely to have a potentially bad experience or, a not great experience. It's not a guarantee. It hasn't even happened maybe more than twice, but it's like that's enough for me as a host where again, like I want you to have a fantastic stay. It's not worth $300 or whatever to me for you to stay and have a bad time for something out of my, it's out of my control once you're there. I have to just like cross my fingers and hope everybody's respectful. But if I can be like proactive as the host and just block that unit, I'll do that, because the only time we've had anything close to a complaint is when it's multiple groups and you just end up with,
Mhm.
and it doesn't even have to be something I would consider bad on behalf of another group, but because it's all subjective. You know what I mean? If you're a group of
Yeah.
older friends and you want to go to bed at 8:30, but somebody else wants to talk till 10 on the rooftop, even though we have white noise machines and earplugs and it's not even that loud, like if your experience is that that's bad or unenjoyable, then that's your truth. You know, it doesn't matter if I say
Yeah.
talking till 10 is fine. If that wasn't what you enjoyed, then like that's the taste that's left in your mouth about the stay. And I don't, you know, I want to do everything I can to like avoid that.
That is so I'm happy that you were able to give that example on a smaller scale, because in hotels we experience that.
Yeah.
And like how you explained room assigning, uh a lot of times you walk into a hotel and you see front desk agents, they're just on the computer
Yeah.
and you're like, what are they doing? They are just blocking rooms
Really.
based on the demographics of the
Yep.
guests coming, based on the events that they're coming with. Usually guests book in groups. So we're looking at the groups and we have these things called group resumes, meaning all of the details about the group. What type of group is this? Are these women? Are these men? Mixed groups? Religious group? Are they going to be loud? Are they celebrating a funeral
Yeah.
or a wedding? And so when you do get, the sixth floor is filled with the
Yeah.
wedding guests, and the right end of the fifth floor has a Sweet 16 summer party, and then the third floor also has a football team on the bottom end. Where do I put the few
Yeah.
transient
Yeah.
travelers that are coming in and they're saying, hey, I didn't even plan on being here this weekend. I just really need some rest. I have work in the morning. And now the guest is like, I put on my reservation that I preferred a higher room, or I preferred a room with this view. But it's like, well, sir, we blocked you on this floor in your best interest, and
Yeah.
you actually have
Yeah.
no idea the amount of work we did to move everyone
Yep.
around to make sure that this huge space can accommodate everybody
Yep.
being here,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's
And so I'm so glad that you say that, because I feel that guests need to understand that. Uh because guests get really upset
yeah.
when their
Yeah.
preferences aren't
Yeah.
met. And it's like, well, I literally am meeting your
Yeah, you don't
preference
know
and
it,
a
and
thousand.
it doesn't help me to explain it right now, but like trust me. And that's actually really I mean, I never thought about that for a hotel. Obviously, it makes sense that that would be the perspective and the process, but I've literally never thought about like all of that
Mhm.
happening behind the scenes of a hotel. So,
Oh my goodness, so much, especially like resorts and
yeah.
large properties like where I've worked, groups are like a very
Mhm.
large source of revenue. And so we do a lot for
Yeah.
groups. And so when you have 446 rooms and 300 of those are being occupied by groups that you've spent all your time accommodating each and
Yeah.
every one of those needs, but you're at 100% occupancy, so now 146 rooms are occupied by just anybody.
Right. Yeah.
You're doing a lot more work. It is actually, I've always loved it when like I've worked at a hotel and it's like, oh my goodness, all weekend we're just booked with
Yeah.
groups, just groups.
Yeah.
I have 5 groups in house to worry about.
Yeah.
That is it. I know what time they're going to eat. I know what time they're waking up and leaving for this meeting. We know what time we can get in the rooms as housekeeping, things like that. And then just to let's transition into what luxury service looks
Yeah.
like. A lot of what I've learned about luxury service is anticipating guest needs, right? So if my standard setup in a room is one decaf coffee and one regular coffee and a few packets of sugar, and I know that my group coming in is ages 60 through 80 and they're all from the South, our guests love cups of Joe. They don't want espresso.
Yeah.
So we do things like that in housekeeping.
Right.
As a housekeeping manager, I have to study group resumes, understand the guests that are coming
Yeah.
in, and go above and beyond to be sure that I'm like, okay, these guests are going to want more services in the afternoon. So, craft my staffing there.
Yeah.
These are young guests and it's the summer. They're going to want to get in the pool. Let me make sure we bust out the brand new boxes of pool towels
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pre-wash them and have them stocked. So there's so much to it
Yeah.
than just cleaning rooms, just checking the guest in.
Yes.
Could you tell me What does that so much as far as luxury service look like at your establishment?
Yeah. Um, so it's a couple different things, but yeah, it's so interesting to hear you talk about that just on a larger scale. But for the same reason, you know, I love hosting groups. It's what we designed our space to do. And it's not just that that's like a unique feature of our space. So we're able to host groups where other people in our area can't at the same level. Um, to your same point, I dealing with one group and their needs and really being able to deliver for them is so much easier and more enjoyable for me than having four different groups and four different units because
Mhm.
you're just juggling so much more. So I totally feel it, but for me it's one group, not five. Um, but so for it's I would say there's probably some differences in an Airbnb type setup versus a hotel. Like there's just more I'm able
Mhm.
to stock and have accessible to guests where
Mhm.
um you know our cleaning team is definitely checking and making sure coffee and all that kind of stuff is restocked in between. And I wanted to say this earlier when you said your background was in housekeeping, but I have to just like give the biggest shout out to our cleaning team because I could not. There's so much that I do to like bring people in, but one of the things I say is like other people's dirt is the grossest dirt. And I need it because it's a luxury stay, especially like, but anywhere, I don't want to see other people's hair. I don't want to see other people's mess. And like cleaning is not my strong, like that is not my personal strong suit. I can know what the space should look like. Like I've had the vision for the barn burner, but like to execute on a really dialed in clean every time, it's not me that's going to be doing it. And so like there's so much that I owe the team, my main cleaner, and she brings in people as she needs it, but it's like I could not have the success at our rental as I do without a cleaning team that like one I can rely on to be there to do a great job and to like anticipate some of those things, like stuff that can seem kind of silly if it's just like one of the things. So to get back to your question, sorry, it's like roundabout.
No,
um
talk.
so there's the basics of this feels like a clean space, and the floors are clean
Mhm.
and furniture's rearranged and the bedding is neat and all this. But I think luxury, kind of to your example, is about all these like little underlying triggers that you wouldn't even know, like you wouldn't necessarily be able to put into words, like why does this feel nice and like high level.
Yeah.
And so some of that, what we try to, it's going back to what I said earlier about just like anticipating what are people going to need. So hotels are better at this to me in my experience than Airbnbs, even though I love staying in other Airbnbs, is like multiple weights of blankets on the bed. Like don't give me one little thin tiny comforter and make me use like a towel if I'm cold at night.
Yeah.
So just anticipate. So okay, how do you sleep? Is it a soft pillow or a hard pillow? Is it multiple blankets or just a top sheet? Is it, how do you like your coffee? Like, are you coffee or tea? Are you creamer or honey? Is it, you need a ceiling fan or a table side fan? You need da 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 da. It's like all those layers of just like what's going to make you feel comfortable in like these really key moments, and sleep is obviously a big part of that. But then it's all this other little stuff like, is the shower curtain open and does it like look well, and the toilet seat closed and the coffee cups are lined up and all their
Oh
little
my
handles
goodness.
are like in a line. And it's, to our cleaning team, like you can think this seems stupid. Why does she want me to make the coffee cups look neat? But it's like all those little triggers are what you walk into a space and it looks like fresh and ready for you as the guest, not like a place that 100 other people have stayed. And I like, to me, that's the little like luxury. It doesn't have to be an overflowing gift basket. It doesn't have to be this thing. It's like the
Mhm.
space is ready to welcome them in the way that they would want to be welcomed, even if they don't realize, like, even if they couldn't put into words, this is what would make me feel welcome. It's like they walk in and it just feels intuitive to them.
Oh my goodness. Say it again, Kara. It is, yes. It is you see me like
Yeah.
smiling from ear to ear. So I am so passionate about operations. I am so passionate about lodging operations and specifically housekeeping. I am biased. I believe that housekeeping is the most important department in the hotel.
Mhm.
And I'm biased. I truly believe that there are two heart of house departments. There is engineering and there's
Yeah.
housekeeping. Outside of that, everything else can kind of be digital or do it on your own as a guest. Um, and almost every task that you just mentioned falls under engineering or
Mhm.
housekeeping. And so I have been given the amazing opportunity. I'm like obsessed with it. It gives me thrill. I have been given the opportunity of like being a part of the team that decides that setup,
Mhm.
opening the property at I was just an assistant housekeeping manager. Mind you, it was a very large luxury resort. So I in on Disney.
Yeah.
So I was like under a director, an assistant director, and then there were three of us. So I shared a lot of like decision making, but it was fun. And that was my first experience. But then I was able to take that and then become an EH at a brand new property where my GM, I just directly reported to a GM and she said, Courtney, how do you want the room? And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, so the desk, the soap is gonna go here and this is gonna go there. And I think that the folds for the hand towels should be here, but they should be placed here, not too close to the toilet,
Yeah.
but not too far away from the sink or the things like that. Where do we put the ironing board? If we put it too far out of the way, they won't even know it exists. And now we're going to get several
Yep.
calls at the front desk looking for it. So let's put it somewhere that's within view, but
Yep.
obviously it does, even things like I'm all
No,
excited.
I'm with
Even
you.
things
I'm
like
like, because I think that's the challenge of so many Airbnbs is that people are retrofitting a personal home, and it's like, what makes sense in your house that like jiggle the handle and it works? It's like that cannot be the standard in a space you're welcoming guests into.
Mhm.
And with the hotel or things like where you're like starting from square one, it's a little bit easier to be like, what actually makes sense for the intended purpose of this space? And I still think you can do that with Airbnbs, but so many people don't like go back to baseline of like, if I was walking in here totally ignorant of the space and its quirks, what would make sense? Where would I look for this thing? Or where would like a
Mhm.
reasonable person or most people look for this thing? And then
Yeah.
am I accounting for that? And if it's not there, put a little note that says it's over here or come up with a way that you're serving the people that the space is supposed to be for. So I feel really strongly the same way that the space has to function well, like, and it serves you better as the owner and the housekeeping team and whatever, but it all, goes back to the guests, obviously.
It It definitely serves you, the guest, the operation in general, and there's so many things. Setting a standard for anything, I'm very particular.
Mhm.
My background is in hospitality. Well, I won't say in hospitality. I'm still in hospitality. But my background is operations. I'm currently a housewife, and I love that. I still run things. Like I even told my husband the other day, I joked, but like, do you need me to type you out an SOP? Because
Yeah.
like this is where we store these
Yeah.
things, and this is where we store this, and we store these things here because it's easily accessible. It streamlines these processes, and that's the same concept for guests. I should be able to streamline their experience of
Mhm.
taking a bath
Yeah.
or a shower when they step into their kitchen. Why on earth would I have the silverware up in a cabinet? Like,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
the silverware should probably, or the seasonings, if you provide those things, the salt and pepper at least, should probably be near the area that they're cooking or eating.
Right.
So, just the simple logistics of the setup of a room,
Mhm.
the logistics of the colors of a room. Different hotels will have like different suites, and those suites all have different themes, which is very interesting.
Mhm.
And so you can kind of accommodate every type of guest that is paying high value
Yeah.
for, like, oh, well, what are you enjoying? If you're coming to book a suite for an anniversary, I recommend the Amelia suite versus,
Mhm.
the Floridian suite.
Yeah.
And while they're the same size and the same size bed and the same layout, it has a different view. It has a different color.
Yeah, it's just been
And
designed to, host you the best and
yes, and there are so many parts of hospitality that things can get tricky. So, being in operations, I have butted heads with designers of hotels because now we're in this space and they go, "This is how the layout of the hotel of the room is." And immediately I go and I slide next to the bed because if I'm a housekeeper, how can I get between the desk and the bed? And I fit, but half of my housekeepers,
Yeah.
I'm built like a little
Yeah.
boy, so
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and does the vacuum fit there? And does
does the
this,
vacuum fit there? Or am I going to have engineering or a houseman pull the bed after every single checkout to ensure that a guest hasn't dropped something down
Yeah.
there or left something? So just ensuring that like every part of your operation, that the guests are comfortable, your staff is comfortable, you're comfortable. Um, it is a challenging process, and it's something that requires so much skill, and that's why I get so proud and happy. Like you are, you you are doing, you're running finances, you're managing inventory, you're doing guest services and customer communication and marketing and decor. Like, so uh the innkeeper is like one of the multifaceted, just amazing. And what I love though is that it kind of ties to the skills of a housewife. A housewife is like super man and woman. To be able to account for every item in house, to be able to ensure that every occupant of that house is comfortable, has every snack that they want, is able to sleep in all the different rooms at different times during the day. It is clean. Like that is so my hat's off to you. um, that is admirable. I do want to talk about being an owner though, because we talked about operations, but so I have my master's in hospitality
okay.
and tourism management. And one of my classes in my second to last semester was what was it? I think it was an operations management class or an entrepreneurship class, something
Hmm.
like that. I just know my final
Yeah.
project, my course long project, was to create a hospitality establishment and like create a business plan, be able to like calculate my break even point, all those
Yeah.
things. And so I created a luxury bed and breakfast because I used to say this all the time, like in college, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get my degree and I'm gonna become the black Mama Mia. Like I
I
just
love
always
it.
wanted
Yeah. I
a
want to
super cute.
come.
Well, I said wanted, mind you,
Yeah.
because I did that project,
Yeah. And now you
Miss
know what it
Kara.
would take.
And I had to do real numbers and real research,
Yeah.
and I wanted a luxury bed and
Yeah.
breakfast. I wanted it to be called Lavengolia because I wanted like this mix of like lavender and magnolias.
I love
Magnolias are
it.
like this southern,
Yeah.
this southern luxury, but then lavender is really kind of relaxing. So I wanted like an emphasis and a focus.
Yeah.
I'm giving my whole like
I
business
know. Yeah.
pitch, but whatever.
You've got a complicated name with 12 layers like the barn burner.
Yeah, I was super excited. I took my project really seriously because I knew that it was something I wanted. So
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm given an opportunity and the resources to be able to learn to build a business plan.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, uh, I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't make any money. And I made an A on the
Yeah.
project. And the only note that my professor had for me, it said, owning a bed and breakfast is what did he say? Something like it is a luxury or a privilege more so than it is a great investment.
I could totally
And
see
that's what he.
that.
So could you tell me what is that like? Like I know that what you're doing, and mind you, I'm not gonna say I know. You are very bright. You and your husband are business execs. Y'all probably are investing your money crazily. I don't want to get into your personal finances, but as far as just running the Airbnb, I think you mentioned it. I'm trying to like be sure that I ask the
Yeah.
question properly because you said, I'm going to quote you right now, Miss Kara, one moment. It is on your form and I have it. Just give me one
Yeah.
moment because I've been waiting to ask you
I don't even know what I
because you
said.
said it and I was like, oh my goodness, she knows. Why I don't believe short-term rentals are truly passive income if you care about the experience. Do you remember
I
saying
do,
that?
yeah, because I do believe that.
Yes. So could you please just break that down for us? Please explain to us why this is not considered passive income. It's not just easy flow money if you actually are doing the job of a true hospitalian.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to see if I can get my thoughts in a, like, logical order, so bear with me if I kinda, like, go around the
That's
bend
okay. I
here.
talk crazy
Yeah.
too. I understand.
Um, you know, before what we when we started, I talked about how we had looked at other short-term rentals and thought we would buy, looking at potentially buying like a more traditional Airbnb in the area. We knew there was tourism potential here, all that. Um, and that's how a lot of people I think get into being an Airbnb host is like that's the common way to hear people talk about it. It's like your real estate, you know, portfolio or whatever. You're this investment mogul and you're going to own all these properties and they're going to bring in you know, dollar bills and whatever. And so that's like how a lot of people get into Airbnb and owning short-term rental real estate for that reason because they want to make money. And I mean, that is how we're not doing this as a charity project. Like we are trying to make money as well. And when we first started, it was with this idea of like looking for opportunities for more passive income. Um, and what I've realized just over the years and as I've like fine-tuned my own perspective on this and we've lived it and built it and been hosts now for 5 years is it and I mean I knew this more than before now. It's not like I've just realized this, but this is like what I've kind of come to believe is it if all you're worried about is the dollars and the investment, then the experience is not the important thing to you. Because like the example I gave of, I know if we have multiple people, um, multiple different groups renting the units, that there are certain units that are like more likely to have a bad experience and that I'll just block those. That does not that does not make financial sense in the short term as far as from a straight investment perspective because I could get somebody to book that room and take their money and if they have a bad time, who cares? I'm not trying to rent to individual groups anyway. That's not my primary perspective, but like that is not my stance on it. I want everyone that stays with us to enjoy their stay. So there's that piece. And again, the thing like having multiple blankets and a fully stocked kitchen and paying like a much of a fair or high wage to our cleaning team as I can. Like all of those are to the end about the experience of the guest and what I want our place to provide. And those are not, if you just look at them like individually at the short term level, uh, a straight investment money decision. I think that it serves like the long term vision of our space ultimately and it helps create the kind of environment I want to have. Like I want to treat the people that work with me well. I want to, help this whole ecosystem of the people working to make the barn burner a success. Like I want everyone to come out of that ahead. And again, that's not about just dollars and cents. So that's like the first side of it. Um and then from a passive investment, again, like if you care deeply about the experience, then you can't turn that part off. Like so even though this is a more like passive or hands off type of investment as the owner because I'm not the person cleaning especially like I don't have to be there between every turnover so I can be on vacation and get a booking or have a group check in when I'm not in town or be at home dealing with something else while people are staying there like obviously it's not a 9 to 5 I'm there all the time so it is like passive in that way but but even though I'm not there, I'm still always on call in that sense for our guests. So, we go camping, we go on vacation, but it's like if somebody can't get the door lock to work, even if I've given them clear instructions and they're trying to get in and not pressing the button that they have to at the end or whatever, and they call me then, I better be ready to answer the phone or have, them have a way to get a hold of someone because that little interaction can be enough to like totally derail your day. Again, start your trip in the wrong way, or maybe it's the middle of your trip and whatever. You need a quick resolution to that thing to continue to enjoy your stay. And yes, we're human and nobody's on call 100% of the time. And there can, and it's not even that often that somebody needs me in that way, but it's like you have to be ready to respond. And I just don't think, like, if you're using a management company, they probably aren't, again, to that level of service in this
Yeah.
industry. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It's not that you can't put things in place or have a team that helps you provide it, but it's very involved to like continue to provide hospitality at a high level, I think. And you just can't do that if it's just a place that it's like check in, check out, I don't care. Somebody else is handling it. All I'm worried about is the money in my pocket at the end of the day. So hopefully that makes sense. But it's like, that's why I say that. There's plenty of people out there that own Airbnbs that don't hardly think about it unless, something goes wrong or they have to respond to their management company. But then those people are not, I don't, caring deeply or providing a high level of hospitality. I don't.
I love your breakdown of that in the sense or in the lens of Airbnbs because it's the same concept with hotels. That's why you have different brands.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have one hotel company, but they'll have a brand that is considered limited
Mm-hmm.
service. You check in, you stay, you check out, and that is it. So guests that decide to pay for that service do not expect X, Y, and Z. Do not expect, you
Yeah.
know, a pull-out couch or in-room dining or extra coffees, or don't expect I don't know, just all those other
Yeah.
things. And then if you're staying at a full service, perfect. Please expect maybe, we can deliver a extra blanket or extra pillows to your room. We can deliver a microwave and things like that to your
Yeah.
room. But don't expect turn down
Yeah.
service.
Well, I think that's actually, I think I maybe missed making that clarification, and I'm glad you're making that point,
Mhm.
that it's like there's all kinds of owners and there's all kinds of stays. And again, I work in the
Yeah.
Airbnb world, so it's obviously there are going to be guests that they don't care about that level. They don't want to pay what they would have to pay to have a luxury Airbnb stay, and
Mhm.
that's fine. And then you get what goes along with that. But it's like on the flip side, as the owner, you can't expect top dollar if you're not providing a top dollar stay. And it takes, it's a whole ecosystem of serving the whole range of customers. But this idea of I'm going to make all the money and I'm not going to do any work is where I am like, no, that's that isn't how this works.
Yeah. And it is such a challenging thing to balance. That's where, like revenue management comes in, and marketing, and just planning and budgeting and figuring out pricing and things like, and like sales, because maybe you do offer all those services, but maybe the area that you're in does not accommodate the same demographics of the people, of the guests that you are willing to pay for those services. And so now you're offering great services, but maybe you have guests in an area that, and I'm using a very specific example.
In your own mind.
I
Yeah.
have I have seen very nice establishments that are unfortunately open in an area that sits right outside of gentrification. And so now we have to keep our rates this low. Our personal standards, though, will not allow us to match what our offerings to that rate. Our offerings are better than the ones that are in the gentrified area. Our cleaning is spectacular. Our The things that we offer, we even go above and beyond. If a guest calls or texts ahead and say if they need something, we will go out and get it and place it in the unit for that guest upon their arrival. Um but because of the rate, there are certain types of guests that pay for those rates, and there are certain types of things that go on, and so you have to prepare for that too. For example, I worked at a hotel in a downtown area in a very small town. And this was a new hotel, and out of the brands that already existed in that town, this specific brand, I know I've already listed like everywhere that I work, but I'm gonna bleep it out. I try my best not to call
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
large organizations or names or
Yeah.
brands, because it's not to talk about them, it's
Yeah.
just my experience.
Yeah.
But we would have these nights where we would have nights where we would have to drop the rate because occupancy wasn't meeting what, our goals were.
Yeah.
And whenever we would drop the rates, we would like, I know this sounds so bad, but we would have to prepare for like the creeps to come
Yeah.
out. Like,
Yeah.
and so we would like standards and operating procedures and things like that would slightly switch up. Like, hey, rates are going to be dropped low tonight.
Yeah.
So increase staffing, increase hours on security. On the day that these guests are checking out, which is typically Sundays, let's increase your staffing for cleaning because the rooms we would have, like, we literally have had tweakers in the
Yeah.
rooms. We've had like one Sunday morning, one beautiful Sunday morning, someone is in their room getting up, probably playing gospel music. Someone else is probably having breakfast
Yeah.
that they took from the breakfast area downstairs. And there was a room in a guest hallway where the guests there, we're more than positive. Now we were profiling, but we're more than positive based on the look. It was very obvious and stereotypical. We're pretty sure that there was some form of sex
Oh
trafficking going
gosh.
on with
Yeah.
adults in that room. And it was one of those weekends where the city was there.
Yeah.
We dropped rates and everyone could get
Yeah.
in. And they were having very loud
Oh my
intercourse to
gosh.
the point where like a woman actually complained because she had to like, cover her daughter's ears and come
Oh
downstairs
my
like
gosh.
there's someone. And so you just talking about like different brands and different ownership and how that affects the different styles of like offerings and how we put value on different
Mhm.
things. Maybe the owner specifically finds that it's more valuable to have more amenities in a unit than it is to have more cleanliness, whereas you might have owners like, when I think cleanliness above
Yeah.
anything, right? Cleanliness and safety above everything. So if my unit is bare bones, if I can't afford nothing but a bed, it's going to be the cleanest bed, cleanest
Yep.
floor, fresh AC before I have a filthy room that also has a filthy jacuzzi
Yeah.
tub and a filthy
Yeah.
flat screen TV,
Yeah.
right? But you have some
Oh
guests
yeah.
who will say, I can charge more because I have so much stuff in this
Yeah.
room for a guest to
Yeah.
enjoy. And in my head, you can't enjoy it if it's
Yeah.
dirty. And so I'm just happy that you say that because I interviewed an Airbnb owner on, I want to say it was my third episode. And I would love for you to watch it
Yeah.
whenever you get a chance. She's so
Yeah.
funny. She's actually my
Yeah, I
sister.
think
She's so
I
funny.
actually did start watching this. I don't remember that I was like, I'll come back and I'll finish it, and then I got off track. But I have found that one because I was like, what else did the other Airbnb person say?
Yes, you should watch that one. She is so funny and she's
Yeah.
new. She's very new to it. And she talks about, there's a part where she says like we're not the last Airbnb because she had a guest. So like I said, she's my
Yeah.
sister. She's the straight A. I did every single sport and got a 5.0 GPA
Yeah.
sister, right? And so now she's getting guest ratings, and her background is accounting and corporate and management. On the side, she loves to sing and she's really artsy. So lodging operations is just not her thing.
Yeah.
Guest interactions are just not her thing. But
She's doing her best.
she like, I think a guest rated her a 4-star, and the ratings for everything was like checked in on time, 5 stars for cleanliness, guests were owners were responsive, but they had like this long like comment about the fact that she didn't have a pizza pan. And she was so like, there, even if you see the like, I have like a sneak peek of the
Yeah.
episode, and it's just so funny to me because she's like, a pizza pan,
Yeah.
like she's so,
Yeah.
and
Well, especially
it's so
it does get me
challenging.
when people will have a thing like that. It's like if you would have asked me for a pizza pan, I would have went to the store and bought you. If it would have been that big
That's
of a
what she
deal, I would have gotten you a pizza pan. But sometimes people,
You should
yeah,
watch
I
it.
had somebody one time gave me like a lower rating, and this was like an individual unit. I'm not that worried, but they were like the it was too cold all weekend in the AC, and it's like you can control. And this one unit has a mini split. It's like there's a remote, two remotes, one right on the side table, one in the bedroom. It is within your control to adjust the temperature, and if it wasn't working, talk to me and I will make, you know what I mean? We'll come by if it's something broken, if it's just, oh, you don't know what mode to put it on, whatever. But it's like, you didn't even tell me you were cold. You were just cold all weekend.
Mhm. And that's part of like the purpose of this platform, because unfortunately, when a guest checks in, you cannot say, "Hey, before you complain about anything, could you talk to me first? Enjoy
Yeah,
your
yeah.
stay." You can't say
No.
that. So we are saying that here.
Yeah.
People that are traveling, please understand that like ratings and things that are very minute that you know, I think some people understand ratings in the sense of like they understand how impactful it is. So some people I think do it maliciously, but other people I don't think really
Right. I don't think
understand
they understand how
how
much even a
impactful.
4-star when everyone around you is at 4.8 or 5, and if that took you to a
Yes.
4.3, it's like even that much on because platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo, they make, you know what I mean, there's a decimal
Yeah.
involved, and so it's not just like Google stars like a hotel might be. I don't know, TripAdvisor or other platforms, they may be the same, but for hotels. But yeah, it's like that really impacts, and if you had a truly bad experience or something was wrong, like you should other people should get to know that. But when it's something like a pizza pan where it's like you could just tell me that that was a problem and
Yeah.
I could either adjust it for the next guest or say sorry or whatever or deal with it while you're there. But it's like once that review's posted for something like that that is like so minor and specific to you, I can't address, you know what I mean? Not everyone is going to see that nuance then when they're going to book. So it is, can be really frustrating for a host.
We just I'm actually her co-host, so I
Yeah.
do everything remotely. And we just had a guest who has stayed with us 4 times back to back. He travels, he comes stays with us, he leaves, he comes back. And I actually, so I'm fairly new to Airbnb too. I didn't know you could leave multiple reviews on the same
Uh,
property if you
yeah. I
continue
don't
to stay
know.
there.
Like, yeah, I don't have that.
He did.
Yeah.
So he left fives. He likes our properties,
Yeah.
why he continues to return. He says it's spotless. I know that it is. It's so spotless because we hire our cleaners. I created the cleaning
Yeah.
checklist. The cleaner follows the checklist. We have co-hosts in the city who goes to the property, video calls me. I actively inspect the unit
Yeah.
with them. I send the cleaner feedback, send the cleaner back to fix it, send the inspector back to like
Yeah.
there's a 5-step
Yeah.
process to ensuring that every portion is clean, right? And so it's clean. It is right downtown, so it's accessible to everything. The area is safe. Like he said all those things, and we felt so
Yeah.
seen. We were so appreciative,
Yeah.
and he's been coming back. And then his very next, his most recent review was a 4-star. And I'm like, this guy, he rated us again. That's crazy. So I went to look, and mind you, the same cleaner and the same guests have been
Yeah.
swapping. So she knows how to clean up after him. He know, you
It's
know.
what's
So it's
like,
like
yeah.
clockwork now. So he and I got nervous. I'm like, did we miss something? You know? And he made a comment, which I understand the concern a little bit, but it is a duplex, so there's a unit upstairs, and so there's a fire escape on the back for
Yeah.
fires. You can go, there's a foyer in the inside of the home. You exit your unit, you can go down the stairs, exit the front door, go to the backyard, all these things. Like, so there's an accessible way to do things. But if you want to take the fire escape to get a quicker route to the backyard, you can, but it's a fire escape. Fire escapes are not fun stairs, they're just something to get down. They're a little bit more steep. You know, they're shorter, but they're sturdy. They work. They're bright red for you and everything. And he rated us a 4 star, saying that he still loves the property, but the stairway in the back leading to the backyard is not suitable for elders. And I'm like, it's not for elders, and it's not just to lead to it's to
Yeah.
escape a fire.
Yeah.
And the building came with it,
Yeah.
and it ensures your safety. It is not supposed to be a luxurious route to the
Yeah.
backyard. And so those sorts of things, and I genuinely believe, because I we love him as a guest. He left
Yeah.
great reviews. He continues to stay and gives us business. I don't think he understood that that 4 star impacted us.
Yeah.
And so
I do think
platforms like this.
depending on the
Mhm.
platform, I think most of them now, like as the host, you can respond publicly to reviews. And one of the things I don't know where I heard this, but I try and keep it in mind. I think it's really helpful. Like when you're doing one of those like public responses to a review, you aren't actually responding to the person that left it. You're responding to future people that are going to read it that aren't that person. So it's like you're not and this wasn't even that bad. Sometimes people are responding to like hateful or vindictive people,
Yeah.
and they want to like get their in on like, I'm going to tell you how you were such a bad guest and I'm going to itemize all the things you did. It's like, that's not the point. You're not going to win against that person. You are responding for the next person that reads it, that sees, oh, there was context to this that I missed, or that guest must have missed, or wow, that guest kind of off on a limb, and the host was really reasonable and addressed their concerns and apologized and said like, hope you have a great day
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's like, if that's your framework, you're responding, everything you're doing is like building to the next guest. It helps, I think, keep you a little more like sane.
Thank you for that tip. And so she's doing that. I think at at one point it wasn't even on a public comment, but it was an interaction between a
Yeah,
guest
yeah,
and the messaging. And even still, we were like, like, let us hop in. Hey, we're your co-host. Let
yeah,
us respond. Because my sister was like, no, because she requested an early check-in. We went out of our way
yeah,
for this and this and this and this. I'm gonna tell her that da, da,
yeah,
da. So she gets like that, and it's funny because everyone is
yeah,
different. And so you can be someone who can see it from a professional view and go, okay, this guest, I may find this unfair, I may find this malicious, or I may find this just absolutely wrong. And I really want to make that clear, or I want to go off on them as I would in like maybe a normal
yeah,
environment. But it's for the sake of my
yeah,
brand. And so I think that's another challenging thing that people don't see. We, as hospitality professionals, consistently bridle our tongues.
yes,
We consistently have to tuck it
yeah,
away. And a lot of times, especially working in large environments like hotels, when there's just tons of like there's a disrespectful these are specific
yeah,
examples. There's a disrespectful volleyball team with 14 and 16-year-old girls playing crazy in the fitness center and disrupting the guests in the fitness center. And then we tell their parents, and their parents are like, uh I'm at the pool, don't talk to me. And then there and then there's a disrespectful maybe male guests upstairs that are consistently being inappropriate with my housekeepers. And then there are 4 call outs, and valet one of the valet drivers didn't show up, so someone from another department had to hop in, and they actually just hit someone's car, so now there's an insurance claim going on. And so there are
yeah,
all these things
yeah,
happening, and the entire time you're like,
yeah,
and then you come home
yeah,
and you need a way to release it. And I just there are so many different ways that people do. I want to ask you, have you ever had, and maybe not because a guest did something to you, but just because hospitality can be so chaotic at times, what is it that you do to just kind of like especially because like you work with your
yeah,
husband, and while I'm sure you guys love each other, I'm sure, like, y'all probably get on each other's
yeah.
nerves sometimes, especially if you guys are running 2 different departments, right? So, how do you manage that?
Yeah. I think it made me laugh when you were just saying about your sister, because sometimes I do have to tell my husband that if he's kind of the maintenance person. So if it's an issue like that and he's got to go in and deal with something, especially while guests were there, and he's like, this is, yeah, something's happened where he's like, this is stupid that this is a problem. And I have to be like, if you can't walk in there with a smile on your face, then I'll go fix it, because it doesn't matter if you think this should be obvious. It's not obvious to them. And again, our job is to like make them feel welcome and make it easy for them.
Yeah.
And then we can fix it in the future. So like do what we can to prevent this from being a problem again. But it's a problem now for the people that were there. And it's like, put your happy face on and go deal with it. Or I'll go deal with it, because I'm not going to have like your attitude seeping out at the seams, you know?
Yeah.
So
That's my sister. It's so funny. There's no emotional intelligence whatsoever. She's
yeah.
like
Yeah. But so as far as just like the way that I would say we just deal with the hecticness of it, and this isn't going to work for everybody, I guess, but like part of why I love having the barn burner here, hosting guests. We've lived here this fall. It'll be 9 years that we've lived down here. And like, we just love it. So glad that we kind of made the random decision to move here. We've not regretted it a day that we've been here. It's just like the best thing we could have done. We love it here. And so I feel so lucky to like live in the place that these people are coming to visit, that
Yeah.
when it's randomly warm on a February Tuesday, like I can just go to the state park. I don't have to plan my whole year around seeing the fall colors here. I can eat dinner in town anytime I want. Like I get to live in this, we live here because it's a kind of place that we would go on, like, and we did come here on vacation before we lived here. So it's like I can just be it outside. I love to hike. I garden, like our home is, even though it's a mess and I wish it was as clean as the barn burner is and all that, like
Mhm.
it's still like a sanctuary for us and it's in a place that we love to live. So that's always kind of like the thought in the back of my mind. One, I can just like come home and sit out on the patio and read a book and whatever, unplug or go on a
Oh,
hike,
goodness.
or walk around town. But it's like I live in a place I love and that all these people are taking their spare time off to visit as well, and that just, like, keeps me plugged into, like, the why of why we host people here
Yeah.
and why we wanna share this place. So obviously that won't work for everyone because you may not live in a place you love that much, whatever, but, that's kind of the framework that keeps me plugged into the mission, I guess.
I love that, and you have that personal connection, so it's like sharing your home, which is I can imagine what really helps drive that motivation and constant like determination to ensure that everyone feels as happy and as comfortable as you do
Yeah.
there. So I love that. I'm extremely jealous, and I'll explain
Yeah.
why. I am jealous just because everyone has a favorite season or maybe a favorite location or destination. When I say, I am not over exaggerating, when I say I could live in fall my
Yeah.
entire life.
Yeah.
The smell, the colors, I am looking at the wood and the
Yeah.
the setup in your background, and I'm seeing the pictures on the
Yeah.
wall, and then I'm hearing you say fall, and it is triggering something in me where I'm like, "You're talking and
Yeah.
I smell maple," you know?
Yeah, the my all my pictures are, my rules are, like, they have to be original, they have to be less than $25. There are some that break that, but not many, and they have to look like they could be from Brown County. So that's, like, how I control my art thrifting
Mhm.
is by those. So
I
it's like, yeah,
I
so all of these at least look like they could be a scene from here, even if they're from, wherever else.
And it's beautiful,
Thank
and
you.
just hearing you say, like, sit on your front porch and read a book, like, that is my type of vibe. Tea, coffee,
Yep.
front porch, blanket, and some form of smell of autumn. I am ridiculous. Like, I don't decorate for any other holiday. Maybe I mean, for any other season, maybe for Christmas,
Yeah.
yeah. But, fall,
Yep.
I go crazy. On top of it all, like, I have this autumn essential oil.
Yeah.
I put it in a baking soda mix so I can sprinkle it in the
Yeah.
carpets. I put it in my air diffusers.
Yeah.
I put it on my reusable, like, laundry
Yeah.
balls and toss it into the dryer. Like, everything has to smell like fall. So you talking about it, it sounds wonderful. It
Yeah.
sounds beautiful. I will have all of your links
Thank you.
and access to you and your establishment in all of my descriptions and any of the platforms that I post
Awesome.
on. I am so excited for you and
Thank
once again,
you.
so proud of y'all.
Thank you. I know we're wrapping up and I was thinking this earlier and I wanted to say it. I know we've talked like about some pretty high levels of service and follow through and all that.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to tell people is like you can do your best and it still doesn't have to be perfect right from the get-go. Like I am jealous of you having a degree in hospitality management because my degree is in biology and let me tell you, I have not did not learn anything I needed to run this business with my biology degree. So I've learned a lot of things along the way the hard way. There's plenty that I did not get right along the way, but it's like I do believe strongly if you just start from the place of like I'm in the foot, putting myself in the shoes of my guest, what what is like the most critical to their experience? Like what are those little nuanced things, but it's like there's plenty that I've slowly implemented over the course of 5 years, and I still have a really long list of things I want to do but haven't yet. and the guest doesn't know. They don't know about all those other things. What they know is, like,
Yeah,
the space is clean, you've thought about the things I'm gonna need, I'm able to find it, and, like, at the end of the day, I can enjoy my time here with the people I'm with, and it's like, that
absolutely.
doesn't have to be as complicated as we've made it sound, maybe, but it's like, don't let this idea of I don't know what I'm doing or I can't do it all now stop somebody from just doing what they can do
Yeah.
best, because I think there's, especially in this day and age, like, so much to be gained from making it possible for people to get together and connect with one another. And, like, as an Airbnb host, I don't even necessarily interact with them at all. Like, I am providing this space from
Mhm.
afar essentially, and I still think, like, it makes me happy to think of all the memories and the connections people have made in our space, and I don't, you know what I mean? Never even know those people, but I know that that stuff has, like, ripples throughout their lives and the other people that they're interacting with. So, I think you can come from the best place possible and do what you can, but it's not this level of perfection that's necessary to do it well.
You're absolutely right. It's definitely not perfection, but it's everything you've just demonstrated in this entire podcast. It is patience. It is it is just being genuine.
Yeah,
You're so sweet.
thank you.
My major is in hospitality. It is. My choice to be in housekeeping was a personal decision. I worked front of house, and I don't have the level of empathy and emotional intelligence that is required to retain guests. And that's why I love operations. I love getting busy and like keeping my hands
Yeah,
busy, and I love training teams and seeing improvement. I love I really love there's a difference in like front of house guests or front of house staffing versus heart of house. Front of house, because they're always guest facing, they're a different demographic. They're into different things. They kind of carry themselves different ways. Heart of house, we're kind of rough
yeah,
housers, and I love that.
yeah,
I love, being able to, let go of a little curse word under my breath if I need to.
yeah, yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I don't know that I'd
no,
be cut out to, I mean, like, owning a bed and breakfast, like you were saying, would be so hard because you're so intimately involved with the whole
yes,
guest stay, and I don't think I could do that. Like, I can put on my face when I need to, I can be very
yeah,
in tune to what they need to have a good stay, but it's like, yeah, I'm with you, I am not meant for that
me
level of
either. I
interaction.
My concept of a bed and breakfast was completely custom made for my fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I was the bed and breakfast owner, and I showed up and I touched tables and said, "Good morning, how are you?" And I refilled their coffee and I took their orange juice cups.
Yeah,
But if they had problems, someone else was there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and so I know my strengths and
yeah,
weaknesses. I think that's definitely something else you need. You don't need to be perfect. You absolutely need to know how you're not perfect.
right,
Um, uh, in that episode with Brittany, she talks about that a lot. The importance of having a team
yeah,
who can be able to think like you and do things that maybe you can't do. You can't do
right,
everything, and so being able to
yeah,
have a strong team is so important.
mhm. Yeah, that's where I'm like, I could not do it without my cleaner. That
Yeah,
is not my strong suit, and yeah, I mean, even just to have to be there all the time, it's like I just couldn't do it like she does. So,
right.
but I would not be successful without her for sure.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. After this, we got to get her on the show because I would love to just
Yeah,
talk to her just about cleaning. The experiences
yeah,
are wild, especially in hotels. I just told my husband, I want to say yesterday we were talking about it, how, the crazy things we see in hotel rooms, how I've had to like, glove up because and like fully pick up
ugh,
like used
oh god,
condoms,
yeah.
and toss it or like use,
Just
sanitary
anything, yeah,
napkins.
just people
Anything.
people
It's
are
like, are you serious?
yeah, people are living their
Yeah.
lives, and then they're walking out the door, and they're like, "What did you leave behind?" And
Right?
even just the stuff you said, the thing about moving the bed to see if people left, I am amazed at the stuff people leave behind. Like, you got this, your one dress shoe or, your all this stuff. Your Kindle,
Crazy
your
stuff.
yeah,
As a housekeeping manager at the hotel that I worked at, so like in a larger resort that I've worked at, we had we literally had a department. It was, I can't remember the name of it. It was security, but they had like a specific
Yeah.
name for it. I'm trying to remember, but I forgot. Anyways, they took care of like lost and found.
Yeah.
Housekeepers, we found it. We had these tags on our carts. We tagged it, bagged it, and delivered it, and they took care of
Yeah.
it. But by the time I became an EH, I worked in a smaller scale hotel, so all of lost and found was also my job.
Yeah.
And so I had to create the bagging and tagging process, and how do we reach out to the guests regarding what's missing, or how do we store it, how do we log it, how do we get rid of it, which also then I had to create the process of like finding the donation centers that we
Yeah.
send it to. Are we going to sell it? Do we give it to our staff if they find it first after a certain amount of days, like all those things.
Yeah.
And you would be so surprised. Okay,
Yeah.
first of all, I could say like I have some stuff that I got years
Yeah.
ago from Los
Yeah, no, my daughters are like, "I hope you never sell the barn burner because we get such," like my one just today, my daughter went to school and was wearing like this cardigan that was from the barn burner that somebody was like, "No, I don't need it." And she's like, "Oh, I love that cardigan," or
Yeah, just crazy
yeah,
stuff, like full outfits and
yeah,
everything, or bags, or just stuff you need around the house.
yep,
So, obviously, like, high value items like wallets or
yeah,
electronic laptops, we look at the guest information, we fill it out, we call them, try our best to get in
yeah.
contact with them. But outside of that, like, and even those things,
Some
like,
people are
there
like, "You
were
don't care," or "You can't ever get them to answer you," and it's like, "Okay."
yes, we had like, so I had a lost and found closet, which was kind of just easy to open. I had a little like hard key to it, but then we had a safe.
Yeah,
And so the safe is where we kept like lost IDs and wallets,
yeah,
passports. And we were calling people like, "Sir, you stayed with us a month ago. We still have your
yeah,
license." Like,
yeah,
and so, like, how are you living life? How are you getting around? What's
yeah,
going on? And then there's a process where we have to, like, I think you can turn it into either the postal service,
okay.
or I think you can turn it into the postal service, and they'll send it to the address that's
Okay,
on there. And I found that out much
yeah,
later. But like we were like, what do we? If it felt funny
yeah,
to like open the safe and put something else in there, and you open the safe and you're like, it looks like we're stealing people. I have like 5 passports and 6.
yeah,
It is very alarming to see that people not only leave so much stuff, but they not only leave so much stuff, but they also like don't call for it.
yeah,
I actually, this is a podcasting platform, but just I Mother's Day weekend I went. My husband sent me away for a little getaway. Like I said, I'm a housewife,
yeah,
so spending Mother's Day weekend here doing the same things is not was not
yeah,
traditional. So he gave me a break
yeah,
for Mother's Day, which I appreciated.
yeah,
But I being in housekeeping, I strip my room to the T.
yeah,
Like I take the beds apart, I leave the duvets and the pillows aside,
yeah,
and I do all the things. And so I was going to make a video just to post on this platform for the sake of just people knowing. And I talk about that a little bit, where I say like, if you strip your room, you might, be able to retain half of your stuff.
yes,
Because people will, it's like
yeah.
you unpacked throughout the week and just picked up your bag the day of checkout and was like, whatever's here, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
leave. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I had a recent, when we have groups that are, like, getting married locally and, it's the group
Yeah.
staying with us, they seem to leave the most stuff behind, and I'm sure it's like a whirlwind morning after the wedding or whatever. But, there was something the bride was probably the one that had booked and was messaging me before they checked out, just asking to clarify something, and so normally I don't, tell people proactively, like, get even though I say in the checkout
Yeah.
instructions, "Take all your stuff," I'm not like communicating that to them the morning of. And since she had already messaged me, I was like, hey, and just maybe have somebody do just a walkthrough to make sure
Hmm.
everybody gets their stuff. You'd be amazed at what was left behind. And you can bet there was still a pile of stuff left behind. So
A
I'm like, it doesn't
pile,
even
like
matter if I tell you.
wardrobe. I've experienced in multiple hotels, actually. A lot of hotels that I've worked at, we have like groups of like business guests that come and stay. And quite often it is men who leave like a closet full of
Yes.
clothes. Like they're folded items that are probably in their suitcase and things like that. They'll zip that up and leave. But then you'll open the
Yeah.
closet, those little skinny closets that are in
Yeah.
hotels, and it's like 3 suit jackets, 3 collared
Yeah.
shirts, a pair of pants, and a pair of shoes, and you're like, "This is your entire work, like,
Yeah.
wardrobe."
Yeah. Yeah, and then again,
Oh
yeah,
my
they won't
goodness.
even reach out. It's like, you don't even know. So,
Yeah, won't even
yeah,
reach
that's
out. It's like, oh my goodness.
I'd say that's
I
been
hope
the most surprising thing to me is, like, the
very
quantity
surprising. And
and type of things that get left behind. I'm like, "Wow."
I always think too when I see men leave those types of things, I'm like, if he is married, he's gonna be in a lot of trouble.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, Miss Kara, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
this has been great.
I was so excited. Like I said, my husband was preparing to be able to sit my kids aside and make sure the house is prepared for me to be able to have this interview. And they were gonna go outside, and he said, I said, well, yeah, you guys probably wouldn't have wanted to be outside for an hour anyway. Mind you, if they were older, maybe, but I have a 3 and 2 year
Yeah.
old. And so he's like, oh, well, we could have been outside for an hour. And I was like, well, typically mine lasts about an hour, but this one might actually last longer. I'm so stoked to talk to her.
I'm so
She's
glad.
like in lodging operations. She knows all the assets and facets and all of it. So I was so stoked. And you definitely met
Yeah,
and exceeded expectations for
this has
this.
been great to get to talk with you, and just to hear I've never worked in a hotel, as I've kinda made clear, and I'm just winging it on my own with a, like, thought and a
Mhm.
prayer, and so to hear that if I were a big operation, I'm, like, thinking right on some level,
Yeah.
that
You're
actually
doing
feels
great.
good, so it's been interesting to learn.
Yeah. No, you're doing great. And I'm glad that you are having that experience and that you can personalize it a lot more for your guests because unfortunately, working in hotels, like I said, I've starting a bed and breakfast sound fun, and especially we talked about luxury service and how that's more customizable and just kind of anticipating guest needs. It is much more achievable to do so versus on a large scale. You still have to kind of pre-package what a luxury
Yeah.
service looks like, and at some point, um, I don't know. It's kind of like the concept on. Have you seen The Incredibles?
Mhm.
Where the first one where the supervillain says like, "If everyone's super, no one's
Yeah.
super." And that's kind of how it is when you have 446 rooms that are special guests. If everyone's special, after so many numbers,
Yeah.
no one's kind of special
Yeah.
anymore. And so being able to provide a luxury service on a smaller scale is something that, is so admirable and exciting to hear. I would love to. Oh my goodness, you already know. I have Brown County Barn Burner, the website
Yeah.
right now on this
Yeah.
tab pulled up because when we get off, I'm gonna like look at rates and see if me and maybe my husband
Yeah.
and the girls can go out there. It sounds
Yeah,
exciting.
well, it's easier if you're bringing a whole crew, because then you can book the whole
A whole
thing,
crew.
but
I have a crew of
yeah,
us. There I have 5 sisters. They all have children and husbands plus my mom.
yeah.
Like we ourselves are a crew.
That
So,
that is exactly the kind of group we designed it for, so I know and my husband's one of 4, and everybody has kids, and so it's 21 when that whole group gets together now,
yeah.
and we can host up to 29, but it that is, like, the framework it's all through is how can it be easy for the person that is trying to bring this whole crew together, how can we that's already a whole task. It's already totally overwhelming to try and, like, get that many people to the same place at the same time. I want it to be as easy as possible for that person
Yeah.
if the stay they're planning is with us. Like, I want them to show up and actually enjoy the time with the people they rounded up and got together.
Well, thank you so much for all you do for the industry,
Yeah.
for people. Being a hospitality professional and a good one is just being a good person,
Yeah.
really, right?
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you are, taking care of your guests as guests should be taken care of. And that's why you're so prosperous. That's why that Cheerio box on that oven did not burn
I
down
hope.
that entire
Yeah,
place because you're putting such great things into the
I
air.
hope.
And so you're continuously being blessed, and I'm so excited for you and your
Thank
family.
you. I really enjoyed talking to you. This has been such a fun interview, and good luck with everything. I'm definitely gonna go back, though, and listen to that whole episode with your sister. I started it. I probably still have the tab open somewhere, but I'm gonna finish it now.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Kara. Once again, I'm gonna have everything about Brown County Barn Burner, and I've been practicing that.
Yeah.
Brown County Barn Burner in the description, all of your links and access to you. I am so happy that you decided to grace us with your time and all of your expertise.
Thank you.
And I look forward to staying connected with you. And thank you so much for shedding light on what happens behind the
Yeah,
surface.
thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, you
Bye.
too. Bye.